Much better.
All right, so there is a sign-in sheet being passed around. That's circulating. Okay. And just for the folks that are listening in, we were in the wrong room, so we apologize. We're now here, about to get the meeting started. We're a little bit behind, but we will get right into it as soon as, let's see. Let's give about one more minute, and then we'll get started. Does everybody have an agenda? Joel, you need one? No, I got one. You got one? Okay. I got one. You need one?
Do you need an easel?
I'm gonna be creative. I'll figure something out. Yeah, I think we can work with the space. Yeah, when we get to that part, I'll work with you on that. Just gonna be some brainstorming happening. Take my hat off. And Marge, is anybody here from the health district? By any chance? I know you're part of it, but anybody else? Okay, just wanted to make sure.
I did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did.
All right, so while that is going around, I think we're almost done with our sign-in sheet. I'd just like to call this meeting to order at 6:05 p.m. And before we get started, if I can just get a roll call for all the committee members who are here today, and we can start on this side.
Alderman Lennon?
City Clerk Marge Paul.
John Miller.
Mary Beth Arenella, 7th Ward Alderman.
Joe Carmichael, 8th Ward Alderman.
Rob Pabone, 5th Ward Alderman. So thank you all for being here today. This has been a long road. We've been working together for almost a year now. It's been around 8 months. Having meetings, listening to different stakeholders within the work of rat abatement and waste management and city services to try to figure out what is the best course of action for us to make recommendations around a comprehensive plan that can set the city up for success around rat abatement. So before we jump into public comment, I just want to once again reestablish our group agreements in this committee. We use agreements to make sure that this space is generative, that we're learning from each other, that we're hearing each other, that we are allowing space for others to speak to, moving in and moving back, and just making sure that we are moving towards our goals. So we're solution focused around this topic. So with that being said, I'd like to open it up for a public comment, and if anybody would like to make a comment or share, you can step up to the mic right there. And we'd love to hear from you.
Hi, my name is Anne Marie Crow, and I live at 6431 32nd Street. Right behind, our alley is adjacent to the fire department, so just to kind of place us somewhere. About 3 years ago, after many, many rat sightings in our yard, the city did put one bait station on our property. And our property, our garage door doesn't go right out. It's one of these where you drive in. So it was near the front garage door. I have no idea how often that bait station gets refilled. What I do know is that when they first started doing it, they were putting these gummy things in, so the rat actually had to get in and chew on it, and then they'd come out and whatever, they'd disappear or die, whatever. Now they're doing these little bags, and what happens is the bag gets pulled out, one out of each hole. It gets opened up on what I call our driveway. It's really just a pad. And then that's open for every squirrel, every bird, anybody else who eats it. I've never seen a rat eating it. That's a concern for me because we want to encourage nature. We don't want to eliminate everything. And I just don't see the effectiveness of bags that are so easily dispersed by. And what comes out of these bags, it looks like sprinkles on a, you put on a birthday cake. Very colorful in that. To me, that doesn't seem as effective. That hasn't solved the problem. I had a lot of conversations earlier this year with the fire department because their bins were overflow. Their bin for the entire firehouse, one bin was overflowing, and you could see the rats and the squirrels climbing in there. They took care of that. There's a couple bins now, 3 bait stations. There's a sign up on the pole that says how often they come out. They came out in May, they came out in June, and that's it. So one of my questions is, how often are these serviced? And the one on our property and the one, on the fire stations, and who's monitoring that? Do we know that anything is happening? I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. It gets kicked around a lot. The ones on there, we put a brick on ours. Theirs gets kicked around a lot, and they put it back. But I don't know if anything's happening with those. It's gotten bad enough that we did have to hire a service, and so we're paying $500 a year. We have a company that comes out 4 times a year. One bait station is in the front yard. The bait in there is never touched, so we know the front yard isn't a problem. In the back, they put between 4 and 8, and they are always empty when the guys come out every quarter. So I feel like I'm doing more than my fair share, and I don't know what the city, what the position is. And I'm going to say this very sensitively, but I think there's a lot of people who would agree with it. The second ward representation is so poor. We have never had a convened community meeting. There is no way to gather people with city support in our ward, to gather people and to talk about what's going on in terms of rats and maybe other things in our ward because there's just an absence of the presence of an alderman. And that's an issue. And I know that's out of the scope of this, but it adds to this thing where last week I filled out the blight form because I picked up a dead rat in the backyard, and I don't know where it went. It's been a good week. I've heard nothing back. I don't know if anybody came to look at the bait state. I don't know if our alderman gets a copy of these reports that go in. It's hard to get to a live person. So it's like there's all these barriers, and I feel like we're doing our fair share with, paying for a service, and I don't know that, I think the communication, and I think this committee is terrific. This is wonderful, and I wish I had been here earlier to be a part of, figuring out how to do this. But I think communicating back at the local level is going to be really, really critical because residents are also a huge part of this, and the restaurants. We don't have a restaurant right near us, but, Laverne's is a block or 2 away, but I don't know that that's where the rats are going or coming from. So that's just my.
Yeah.
But thank you for having this committee.
No, and thank you for sharing. I think that your points are valid, especially around the questions of how often, right? What is the regularity? What is the schedule? Mm-hmm. We contract our rat abatement out to Awesome Pests, so they're a rodent service company here in Berwyn. But that is information I would love to get and make public, just so folks understand and know that, when that is happening, and even just reach out to them to see what has been the changes since they've they maybe shifted the, I guess, the poison that they're using or whatever they're using to mitigate, because that's good feedback in terms
Yes.
of how that's impacting the environment and other animals or even children or people in the community. And we want this, the big part of why we set this committee up is because we don't have a plan right now. And so there's been a lot of great work done by city departments to try to report and respond to the issues we've had since the pandemic has started. But there isn't a real comprehensive plan to tackle this. And so that type of feedback, what you're sharing with us today, continues to help us learn as to what we want or what we can implement and what we want to see in the plan in this coming next months and in the next year.
And just to follow that, as long as you brought up awesome. So originally, when we got our little box on our property, it was an elderly man and he had a young kid, I don't know, his son, grandson, whatever. And he was great in conversing and, would explain other things that we could be doing. The last time I made, several months ago when I made another complaint to the city about the rats, I got a call from Awesome, from somebody other than this older man. And I've still got the message, and he said, I would prefer if you called me when you've got a problem. Well, I don't work for him. I didn't hire him. My connection is the city of Berwyn, and I'm not doing that. And I would hope that nobody is being instructed by Awesome to kind of make it just a one-way back and forth between the resident and Awesome, because the city has got to know when there's problems and what the problems are, and how the residents are experiencing it.
Yeah.
Not how Awesome is, how we
Right.
are.
Well, no, and that's really important, especially for data, right?
Yes,
For us to figure out where are
absolutely.
the hot spots, how can we target the issue, and where are we seeing, patterns. And so, yeah,
Yes.
you're right. The data is really important. I know the city has been capturing a lot more data lately, and so for that, we definitely don't encourage that be the relationship as a resident, especially if this is something that's happening in the alley. Now, if it's happening on your property, I'm sure Awesome, as a business would want to work with residents, but when it comes to the alley and the public space, like that's part of the city,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much.
Okay,
I really
thank
appreciate
you.
that. Yeah. Any other public comment?
How do we go about getting tops on
You
our,
have to talk into the microphone.
how do we go about getting tops on our garbage cans? City doesn't seem to care, and the garbage company doesn't seem to care. It's years I've been trying.
So you can report those directly to Waste Management, and they will replace them?
They don't.
Okay.
I've called them in the past 3 years, probably 9 times.
If you want to leave one of us your address and name, and if it's just the top or if it's the whole can, we can get that replaced for you.
Okay.
Okay?
Any other public comment?
My name is Mary Paronto. I live at 3516 on Elmwood. I'm in the 2nd Ward. I just want to support, I have not observed any rats at all. I live in the middle of the block. I'd have to say that half of the north end of the alley is always very tidy and clean. The south end of the alley is really a mess. There's a lot of overgrown stuff. Somebody cut down a mulberry, and it's going to be there forever until the guy who lives there knows how to cut it up. But I did just informally talk to an elderly neighbor and told her, please do not be putting out any bread or seed for the birds. She likes to feed the birds and the squirrels. I said, please stop that. And I talked just to another 2 residents that live at 3506. They said that they have privately contracted and are baiting their own yard. I mean, they have 3 dogs. They said they're very good about picking up, the dog poop and cleaning up. But it's the first time I've actually talked to somebody on my block that said that they were privately baiting in their own yard. Whether they've shared that with the city or not, I don't know. But I'd like to see, something happening. I am not going to walk through all the alleys in my ward, in the second ward. But I really think there needs to be some sort of stepping up to the plate, for, somebody who's representing our ward to either drive through and just check and see what the status is of the different alleys in the second ward. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Susan Greenberg, the 3rd Ward, 2617 Oak Park Avenue. And my neighbor and I share a rat, and we haven't, he only came close to us once, and I was in my neighbor's yard having we had a cookout, and everything was all cleaned up, and then we were watching a movie, and the kids were policing all the popcorn crumbs and everything, so there was nothing on the ground. And when the 7-year-old was carrying the stuff up the stairs of the deck to the house, he screamed and started crying because the rat was coming down the stairs. So the rats are bold and friendly, not nice, not how we want them. But my biggest concern, I haven't seen that rat in a while, so maybe he had some whatever the abatement is, maybe he got caught. But my concern is the garbage and no matter what, people don't read flyers, they don't understand. People that I know read well and come from a higher class suburb and should understand the whole thing, still don't know how to handle their garbage and miscellaneous things. So it's not a matter of English as a second language. It's a matter of maybe not caring. I don't know what it's a matter of. But part of the problem is the garbage can lids. Everybody individually has to call and ask to have their garbage can repaired, replaced. And people don't know that, and they don't do it. And if you sent a flyer around to everybody, they wouldn't read it. So there has to be some kind of work with waste management to have the drivers report what houses need replacement. And that's extra work for everybody, for them, for sure. But we're not going to solve this when half the cans in my alley have chew marks, holes in the lids of the garbage cans. So it needs to be a bigger effort than just individuals contacting waste management.
Thank you.
Good afternoon or good evening. Erica Johnson, 8th Ward of the 1300 block of Home Avenue. Thank you for putting together this committee. Can you disclose how much is allocated for Awesome Pest Services to actually cover annually servicing the city?
So you're asking me how much we budget for that?
Yeah.
I think the last time we had our meeting, do you remember, Claudia, how much it was?
And remember we had two discrepancies of budget
Yeah.
from the city part, because we don't know from the Berwyn Health District,
Okay.
is $30K
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
from the city part. And
Okay.
so we had, if you recall in
Yeah.
the meeting, discussed having a kind of 50-50 arrangement, so the anticipation was $30K from Berwyn Health District
Okay.
and $30K as it stands currently is the city.
Is that a number that recently increased? Because I think about over the years, and I've dealt with Joe from Awesome Pest Services, I've always heard him saying it's such a low number, enough where it made me go and do the math, and it was like pennies on the dollar for each residence.
My understanding is we're still operating under $30K. The Berwyn Health District would have more on the, what the funding is for that, but it did increase this year slightly,
Okay.
to help with the issue of road abatement as it exacerbated during the pandemic.
Okay. Thank you.
Last 2 years it has gradually increased
Okay.
on the city.
I'd like the committee, if they're not thinking about this already, to, as much as I, love Joe and his company and how they handle servicing, it's like, do we have a company that's big enough to handle a problem now that's getting to a Chicago-sized problem. Possibly just putting out bait is not working anymore, considering they have so many other sources of food to eat. Like everyone is stating, all of the garbage cans that are open, whether it's a broken lid or people just irresponsibly overpacking and not making the lids actually seal. I have noticed that, making sure that things are communicated in English and Spanish does help, but I think another thing that might help is that there needs to be a way to kind of empower people who aren't owners so that they understand they can make a call too. It's not just the landlord. Unfortunately, next to our home, we do have some multiple unit buildings and some absentee landlords. And even when the landlords are notified, I know the information isn't trickling down to the tenants, or the tenants just truly don't actually give a damn. And, you know, we're on city-sized blocks here in Berwyn, so it's definitely like if you have a neighbor, you know, doing something wrong, it's going to run across your lawn, your yard. So it's definitely cumbersome. Yeah, definitely cumbersome, and it does feel like, you know, we're fighting the battle by ourselves, no matter who we let know.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, have seen rats. I've picked up some dead rats. Have had Awesome come out and bait. Have asked Awesome to come out and bait, you know, as close as possible as they can around other properties where I know things are miscellaneous. I've personally taken upon myself and called Waste Management to get some other people's garbage lids replaced, and toters. And another thing I think is that people don't understand how many garbage cans, green toters, and then the recycling bins actually are allocated to each unit. So, like, you know, with us, we have a 2-flat, so we should have 2 garbage toters and one recycling toter. That's something that I see. A lot of the multiple unit buildings don't have enough garbage cans for the size of the property, which does mean that spillover of trash and lids not closing. So I hope it is something that gets resolved. It's disgusting. It's a real health issue in terms of rats and carrying bubonic plague and all of the other things that are bad. Hantavirus with their urine and their feces. And yeah, definitely terrifying to, you know, see them moving about at night. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Just one more thing.
Yeah.
Even if you are baiting, if people are not covering the garbage cans, then you're feeding them. They're eating steak. So why would they take the bait when they're getting food out of the garbage cans? The squirrels are going on top of the garbage cans, pulling food out and leaving it, whatever they don't eat. So the rodents are going to eat that. So when you see a hole in your garbage can, I was told the top part of it is the squirrels eating through the garbage can. The bottom part is the rats eating through it. And a lot of our neighbors have the top and the bottom part with holes in it. I've even experienced where, I gotta say it, I was out there when the garbage man was emptying the garbage, because sometimes I try to be out there to make sure he's taking everything, not that he doesn't. And he went to pull a garbage can and had to jump back from it. That's how many rodents was in the garbage can. And I'm saying this so you know, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's really bad. Now, I sweep up the alley, try to clean up the area where I'm at. I clean up on other people's property. But something has to be done also for the residents, has to be responsible and has to care.
Yep.
You know, I know most people here don't want to hear this. I think some people should be fined if they're not taking care of it. Something has to be done about this. It is really, really bad. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Good evening. My name is Andrew Sullivan. Thank you guys for, 3014 Wisconsin. But also I do own quite a few apartment buildings throughout Berwyn. So I have different wards, different apartment buildings. And I put a sign on all my buildings that if people I had tenants that would always be throwing food out the window to feed the squirrels and things like that. And I have a sign posted in every building that if you put food out, you're not only feeding the wild animals, you're feeding the rodents. We have a big problem, all this going on. And I've had to not renew a lease of a tenant that refused to stop doing it. So I'm doing my part in making sure in the garbage and everything like that. I have seen more and spent more in the last 2 years on rodent control, and it's even bad during the summer. You're not only rats, but the mice. I caught a mouse in my own house today. Part of the problem is why I'm here tonight is trying to figure out what you guys are doing. I think that the problem has gotten a lot worse, and for the sake of me, I cannot understand why the pandemic has increased this. But just even this week, I have a building on Kenilworth Avenue right next to the Berwyn Gardens. I was there looking out the window in the middle of daytime, watching 3 rats go in and out of the garbage can there. So if they're bold during the day, the problem is a lot worse. And I'm speaking, but I hear the other people, to make sure you guys understand it. And the other thing about the garbage cans lids, you cannot get Waste Management to come out. I try so hard. And I have the squirrel holes on top of my own house, and I can't get Waste Management to come out. Thank you very much, and I appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you.
Good morning, I mean, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Merced. I live at 6516 West 33rd Street, been there for 25 years. I know Legia, Robert Fay, Mary Beth at the school, quite a few other people here at the City Hall. I do appreciate the hard work and you guys have put in to run this city. Do appreciate it. I did notice this problem started about 5 years ago. Intensely, field mice come out of the rail yards, right? When the train parks. I did home inspections for 15 years. And I advise the clients that keep garbage, debris, stuff that piles up, wood, bags of any other construction off the floor, or just throw it away. Otherwise, that's a nice haven for mice to, start families. I experienced that personally in my own garage, where I had stacks of insulation that I was saving to insulate the back basement porch. And when I come to use it, they were just nesting. And all the R19, you're probably familiar with that, Solomon. And I had to throw it all away, maybe about 15, 20 rows. They were just staying warm. That area, anything else like piles of wood, scraps of wood that you want to save for future projects, outside is not a good place to store them. It should be stacked high, away from the reach of mice and rats. My neighbor next door, 6512, experienced a frightening scare one day. He was in his basement, and a rat came out of his sewer drain, the floor drain. He says, "God, how did he fit in that little hole?" He doesn't know. But he gingerly creeped out of there and walked through his little storage room in the basement and sniffed and couldn't find anything and went back in. So I'm saying that to only point out that there's a possibility that these mice and rats are coming in through your drain system that probably have damage to it. Any hole they can find in your drainage or water pipes, they will enter your house through any gap. So, and that's one way that you can alert neighbors that it's not just the garbage, it's not just the neglect to cut your weeds down in the garage and allow your dogs to relieve themselves there and leave the waste behind. And if you do leave waste in the backyard, it's always great to have a daily pickup of that. Because if you leave it for the end of the week, the mice and the rats just had a feast before you pick everything up. So you're actually feeding them at that point also. So yeah, and any water left behind, they're thirsty. You can give them baking soda and some other mixture of stuff that makes them grow and implode from the inside. I do that. I set those traps inside the house. And so far, for the last 4 months, I haven't seen any sightings of any mice inside the house. But I do see them creeping around the neighbor's yard, and they come through my yard. It's a passageway, you know, that, and I still have a 6-foot fence. So they just go under the fence and so on and so on. So yeah, I don't know that waste management can do anything about it. You know, mice will be mice, and rats will be rats. And just like squirrels, you know, they're hungry, they're looking for a way in, and that's not only the problem, guys. I don't know if you've seen sightings of raccoons lately, but they're in the increase too. And they're even more dangerous than mice, because they do go through your roof line, they nest in your attic, and they can destroy a house in 1 week. I've seen a couple of houses in my area that, you know, went through that experience, and it wasn't cheap to repair. You know, so that and the fact that you know, I try my best. I'm a people person. I talk to my neighbors, and I try to encourage them to cut the weeds down, because also weeds that are left to overgrow. And this yard specifically between East Avenue and Gunderson, at 6500 block of 33rd Street, it's really overgrown, and that's a good hiding place for everybody to just stay low until dark comes. So it's a good protector for mice to be during the day, and at night, like Mr. Sullivan said, they just, you know, they're bold. They come out, and that's what I have to offer. And I know that you guys, and I want to thank you for taking time out to hear our cries and our concerns, and I'm happy that you're here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So I just want to, before we jump into our business for this meeting, just want to thank everybody for coming out to speak. We've been having meetings for months trying to learn more and more about this issue, and everybody coming here today, I feel, only affirms the work that we're trying to do. You know, that you all are still experiencing it. We all are still experiencing it because we live in the community as well, but you all are giving us reminders of what we should be focusing on. And centering us today in this work. So I just thank you all for coming on and speaking and sharing your testimonials and your experiences, because it's really important for the city to hear that, for us to hear that, and for neighbors to hear that this has to actually be a collective process. We can't solve this through only just waste management. We can't solve this only through rat abatement. We can't solve this only through residents, you know, doing what they need to do. It has to be everybody. And that's something that we've talked about in this space for quite some time now, and I think that you all affirmed that today with the different pieces of feedback and advice and experiences that you shared with us, so thank you for that. Yes?
I just wanted to make sure it was okay. I wanted to provide for the
Yes.
ones that are here, and some of this information is based on feedback that we have received. There's a couple of things, I didn't make enough, but I'll give them to them and I'll deliver and make copies. There's a couple of things that I wanted to make sure that you guys were updated about. I heard a lot of feedback regarding how garbage and neighbors can, you know, sometimes increase rodent activity, and how waste management plays a part in that. And so what we did is we developed these. I'm going to give one to everyone, and we have them in Spanish and English. But they're door hangers. We created these with waste management in the blight department, and the reason for that is because, as you guys stated, there may be incredible residents that do a lot of hard work to maintain their properties. However, I'm not saying that other residents are not doing the hard work. They may, you know, not be informed, or may not have the resources, or may not understand the process, and so we created this door hanger. So instead of immediately fining residents, we give them a warning. And the warning also educates on how to maintain your containers. And it also has a QR code for how to recycle properly. We've seen that this has also increased the improper recycling, and this all kind of goes in. If they see that there is a lid or a green garbage that it has garbage in it, it's supposed to be for recycling, then they won't pick it up. And again, it could be recycling, it could be garbage. The point is that it's not with a lid, and it's out in the alleys. And so we started to create these, and it also has the information on how to get in touch with the city, waste management, so I'm going to pass those out to you. And then, Rob, you have already seen this, and so has the Rodent Abatement Committee. This is just a chronological summary of everything that we've done throughout the years, including when we started working with the ad hoc committee and the blight department. So you guys can see kind of like the step-by-step bullet points of the kind of progress that we have made with the feedback that we've obtained from residents. And then lastly, I just wanted to share the CDC handout about pest management. So when we are creating these handouts and this different media, a lot of research goes into it. We've spoken with CDC, with the Illinois Department of Public Health, and as complex as this issue is because of how many entities and agencies are involved, it does come down to 3 magic things to get rid of rodents, and that's deny the access to food, water, garbage. Sounds simple enough, but that's the complexity that we're in. So I just want to provide this to you because this does come directly from the CDC, and these are the kind of materials that we're utilizing in addition to the ad hoc committee and our communication with the blight department and the Berwyn Public Health Department in order to create the different multimedia that is necessary to educate the residents. Okay, I'm going to share these with you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so we're going to move into new business. Based on members' requests, we wanted to get an update on the RFQ that was put out by the Public Health Department, Public Health District. Just to give a little bit of background on that, there was an RFQ that I think was circulating to see if they can find a contractor, someone to come in and do some of the rat abatement. And I just wanted to see if anybody had heard. We were hoping that someone from the health district was going to be here today. But I know Marge is part of the health district. I don't know if you know anything about this.
Sure, I can report on that.
Yeah.
So the Berwyn Public Health District had difficulty pulling together a request for proposal for rat abatement. There was confusion from the president of the health district, David Avila, as to what the goal of the RFP was. The members thought that he was requesting assistance in order to determine what type of rat abatement needs the city might have. The RFQ did go out in April, I believe. The health district operations manager at the time sent the RFQ out to several rat abatement companies throughout the Chicagoland area. We received only one completed RFQ, and that was from Awesome Pest. That came back in, let's see if I can find the date that they completed it. So in the review was the RFQ actually came back with a proposal to split the city in half and do 2 different sections, which is different from what Awesome Pest is already doing. And unfortunately, the amount of the cost for the program that they proposed was about 20 times the amount that the city is already paying for pest services. And so it was a disappointment that we learned absolutely nothing from this process, that we received a RFQ from a company that we already had, and the cost was close to $70,000, which, you know, is, well, twice as much as the city has budgeted and way more than the health district contributes toward to the cost. It actually, one calendar year would be $72,000 for the type of work that they proposed in the RFQ.
And was that 72,000 from the city and 72 from the, but all together?
It was a total.
A total, okay. Okay. Does anybody have questions?
I just, for the folks that are here.
Oh, I could also just end by saying that the health district president made a motion and he tabled discussion of this indefinitely. So it hasn't been back on our agenda for months.
For the folks that are here and have not been here previously, if Marge, if you can tell them what portion the health district does handle as far as the rat abatement?
Oh, sure. So the health district entered into an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Berwyn probably back 12 to 16 years ago. And the city asked us to pay half of what they were paying Awesome Pest at the time, which the contract amount was $12,000. And so our agreement with the city was to pay half of that. And so for all of this time, the health district has been contributing $6,000 to the
You guys
cost.
primarily do restaurants, is that correct?
We have, we're tasked with, yes, we're tasked with inspecting restaurants and following up on complaints received from residents if they, see issues there. We don't do the exterior of the restaurants. They're really only there to see whether or not the food service is complying with food service requirements set up by Cook County and the Illinois Department of Public Health.
But the 6,000 that you all have been contributing, that's for the citywide rat abatement work. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Scott, did you have something?
So I kind of spin my wheels on this, but if Cicero, the town of Cicero, is spending in a total of about $600,000 to $800,000 a year, and the city of Berwyn collectively is spending $30,000 or $40,000 a year for the same, well, we're not doing the same program as they are, it's tragic. And we've been spinning our wheels on this for 4 years. I'll get on my high horse here again. We continue to talk about this, but we're still doing this same thing, and we're still having the same conversation. I have went out, you guys have cleaned out alleys, other aldermen have. I've walked up and down streets, alleys twice a year, sending information to Waste Management to repair 300, 250 garbage cans. Knocking on residents' doors myself to talk to them about the condition in their yards. Although I don't mind that, but we're kind of spinning our wheels. And I don't know that anybody's really taken this serious. I'll be critical on the city side, as much as the health district side, but it's impacting us as aldermen. So we did the RFQ. Maybe it was right, maybe it was wrong. We get one response back from the current provider, no others. I think it's time that we go to another community and look and see what they do, what programs they have, what vendors they do they hire people themselves? Our biggest issue is talking to the businesses and the residents personally to fix the issues we have. And I know we do try, all of us do. I know the city does as well, but we need to correct it. The problem areas within my ward are the same problem houses that are breeders of rats for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. And the neighbors around those breeding houses continue to be frustrated with the rats and the city and nobody getting anything done. Because we can blight them, we can ticket them, we can get them to court, but we can't physically go and take care of their house. And that's a problem. So I think that we're at the point now where we really need to, we have to make field trips, us on the committee, and go sit with Oak Park and sit with their health department and sit with their blight and their city to go through this, because I'm not happy with the way we're doing. I mean, we're trying. All I can say, I'm not saying we're not happy, but we need to get this resolved. And it's going to take money, it's going to take a budget, and it's going to take a lot more than $50,000 or $60,000 to help with the rat situation in the city. Sorry, I got on my high horse. I mean, I'll ask one more thing, I'm saying one more thing. 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, we had the same rat abatement committee, had recommendations. Some things changed, but not really. So we're doing the same thing 5 years later.
And that's why this committee was started, because nothing happened, right? Nothing changed. So we're here to actually do something about it. I think that your thoughts on, talking to different cities is something that they're not here today, but another member of this committee who's a community member, is not an elected official, has done a lot of research on what's happening in Oak Park, what's happening in Cicero. I think we have a lot of that data already. I think the move here is, and the question I'll pose back to you, Scott, since this was something you guys worked on a few years back, but it didn't turn into implementation, is what is the big roadblock when it comes to going from ideas and suggestions to an actual budget or department, right? Because I think from all the meetings we've had, we've learned from, the buildings department, the blight department, from waste management, all these conversations we've had, we've learned that there's a lot of things happening. Folks are doing their best to record and report what's happening, and then, giving that information to Awesome Pests. But we know it's not enough in terms of the budget, or it's not covering the city enough. We know it's not getting baited enough. It's not being addressed at the level we need it to be. We know it's not comprehensive. And we know there's not a department that deals with this, right? So most of those cities that you mentioned, they have a department that does this, right? They don't contract out to a company. They have an in-house service, right? They have an in-house department that deals explicitly with rat abatement. So is this a budget thing? Is something we need to look at with how we would need to restructure our budget to cover this, or what is the crux of it?
I think that the budget is one thing, but we can put it in the budget. It's just a matter of what program do we put there. We really need feet on the street that just focus on rat abatement. We have hybrid employees that basically do blight, they do inspections, they do permits, stuff like that. So when somebody's out on vacation or sick or whatever, they're filling the gaps for other things. So we specifically need people, and the health department as well, district, they need as well, people that just focus on the health and safety, the rat abatement for the city of Berwyn and the Berwyn Public Health. And that's the only way I see that we're going to get out of this, is having a supervisor that has several employees, and their mission is just to deal with going through alleys, personal conversations with residents, giving tickets out or helping them or correcting them. But we can give tickets and things like that, but it never gets better because the same houses have the same problem, and I go to the same houses and have the same conversation every year. So we need bodies, we need money, and we need a program. And I think if both would take it serious, we could put that together. We have an employee at City Hall now that's going and taking care of commercial businesses now. So I mean, there are things that we're doing, but I don't know that there's a uniform communication between health and city to really follow through with things. And that's another thing that is a problem for us as well.
Does anybody else have any thoughts on that? Go ahead, Claudia.
I just wanted to inform everybody that research that you guys are referring to already took place. I have contacted every surrounding suburb, including Cicero and.
Nobody's going to hear you on camera unless you're talking to microphone. Miscommunication person.
I just wanted to give a brief update in that that research already did take place. I contacted the surrounding suburbs. One of the things that I want to make sure that residents are aware of when comparing townships, cities, and budget is that it's not just about the program, the capacity, and the budget. Geography has a lot to do with it. We are unique in the sense that a comparison to Cicero would not be an accurate comparison, and the reason for that is their geography and the fact that many of the other surrounding cities actually have business corridors separate from residential corridors. North Riverside does it a little bit differently, but their geography, the access to water, for example, they have a river. Right? So we don't have, they have grass, they have a lot of open field. That's where their mice and their rats go. We don't have that. We're a completely very dense population, so we don't have that. We're very unique from the surrounding cities. The only one that could and would be a comparison, and that's the one we reached out to, the Oak Park Health Department. And what they advised the director was that even though there is an Oak Park Health Department that deals with this
on site and in-house, the first step was contracting a consultant. So when we talk about ad hoc committee and you guys have excellent feedback, the reality is none of us are rodent abatement experts. And the reality is that even if we talk to Oak Park has something tailored to Oak Park. And we have a different geography. We have our corridors, Ogden is right next to residential. Multi-unit complexes are right next to commercial. So that's not the case for the townships around us. So the purpose of the RFQ and the difference between an RFQ and an RFP is that the RFP already assumes that we have the guidelines for what kind of performance and measures we want executed in the city. The RFQ says we don't know. We need you to tell us. We need you to assess the city, the geography, the population, the business corridors, and provide, and of course they're going to provide, six-figure budgets and so, but then we work off of that to what's feasible. Because if we create a program, who is going to create the program? Who here has the expertise to create a program for 60,000 residents? So that's what I believe that we need first and foremost, an expert consultant that is going to assess the city from a geography standpoint and a population standpoint, and then lastly from a business corridor standpoint, because without those insights, then we're going to continue to do what everybody has been talking about. And then just a little bit on the commercial inspector, because it wasn't included in the updates, is the commercial. I'm just going to go through the commercial inspectors, exterior and interior. So they obtain a list of all licensed businesses from the licensing department, and then this inspector, who is part of the city's blight department, and the salary is also paid off of the city's budget, is southbound, east-west, and they visit every single business. So they have a roster. They get a copy of the active pest control contract from the owner or manager. And large chains such as McDonald's, Burger King's, they deal with on an email basis from that kind of communication standpoint. The communication is they enter the sites, the documentation is they enter the site visits and inspect records of all the information received, and then they enter into the rodent abatement program, which is really our new world documentation. Part of that includes site visits and imaging, all sites that are non-food. It includes also all sites that are non-food but are liquor licensed. So it's not just food places, it's also, bars, as an example. And then the photos document the blight. And every 2 weeks, there's a follow-up for anybody that is pending or expired. And in approximately 1 to 2 weeks is what the courtesy that the commercial inspector provides to new businesses in order to get themselves registered. So I just wanted to give you guys that information. And then the research that was gathered during January was provided to the manager then and also to David Avila. So he has the information on that as well.
Thank you. So my question would be is how do we get an RFP or an RFQ acted upon so people can come into Berwyn and look at our current situation and let us know what we need to do in the future? Because that's where we're stumbling, because we're not living and breathing this every day as full-time employees here on the committee, but we need to have somebody come in and assess our city.
Yeah.
And if we can't have somebody come in and assess our city, and we can't, then we'd have to go out to another city to see what they do, to handle the situation.
So I would make a recommendation that as chairman of the committee, you put a communication on the agenda asking the city council to direct the building department to put out an RFQ for that very thing. And I can say that the health district, at least 2 of the 3 members thought that that's what our health district was attempting to do. Right. But because we don't have the expertise to write an RFQ or RFP, it failed, obviously. And so if, certainly the health district would well, I'm speaking on behalf of the health district, but I'm confident that they would participate in, you know, to try to help in whatever way to get that done. But it's not going to happen if you depend on the health district to do it.
I was going to ask that. That was going to be my next question. I know it's the health district and the city. So are you guys the only one who can request an RFQ?
No.
Okay, so then we can request.
And I would, yeah, recommend that it
Yeah.
go through, you know, the professional people here at the city rather than,
Yeah.
you know,
And our,
Right.
our outreach might be stronger
Right.
through the city
Exactly.
website versus your
Yeah.
website, because it was
Right.
hard to find that on your website when you did put it out
Right.
there, they did put it out there.
Yeah. So yeah, so how do people feel about that recommendation?
Yeah, I think
Yeah?
that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Yeah, and I think that this has been something that many folks in this space have talked about, right? That we want to get to a situation where the expert comes in and assesses. So I think that it's great that, you know, we had a meeting with the building department and you all shared that. Scott, you've shared it. I think some of the other committee members have also talked about the importance of assessing and then building off from there based on our own demographics, our own geography, our own place and space. So I think what I would like to do now, because I think I consider that as a recommendation, as a next step, as something we want to put forward. I just want to make sure that we're being strategic about this. So to me, this is something we can do right away, right? We can put this in for the next meeting, and it could be something that starts getting worked on and starts building to something bigger, right? To this larger plan that we want to see throughout the city. But also based on the conversations that we've had as a committee over these months, are there any other things that we want to put into other communications, other recommendations that we could be strategic about in the short term, right? That we want to make sure that we add and allow council to chime in on or vote on so we can move forward. I have a couple ideas, but I want to give some space to committee members as well.
I just want to talk a little bit about waste management. I think that, and I think we've mentioned this before, maybe asking waste management to create a sticker that can be put on the garbage cans with their phone number so that folks can call when they have an issue. Because I think that, you know, it just says their name and folks don't know who to call sometimes. If they call here and they don't get no answer, I think that we should talk to Waste Management about getting stickers on our cans with some type of information that residents can call, that it's in their face and they have the number in hand.
And I believe they may have something already. I think I've seen it, so I don't know if they,
Well, we talked about it last time,
Yeah.
but I don't think anything.
And we talked about it when he was here too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's something we can follow up.
What ended up coming out of that
You need to
is
sit
this.
right there. Just sit right there.
Is this because it was something that was spoken about and we acted on it immediately and we created this. Now this isn't exactly for lid replacement or rodent abatement, but the reason we did the door hangers instead of the stickers is because Waste Management stated that when they do place the stickers, sometimes they place stickers just like blight tickets over and over and over and over on top of each other, and that does not seem to have an effect. The reason we decided to do something like this is because the blight department can put it on the door handle of a residence, so it's not, you know, a sticker that's on the lid itself, and also because the blight department documents have, you know, obviously everything that they do, and so when they put this sticker and they go back for a follow-up, if they see this missing, they know that somebody grabbed it. So that signals us that they did receive the warning, which is the only way we could come up with Waste Management to effectively issue a warning, because again, we send blight tickets, we put stickers, we even put things on, you know, the doors, and they stay there sometimes.
Right,
So,
I'm talking about like just an informational sticker, not a blight sticker.
right, this could be, we could create, what I'm proposing is a door hanger for Waste Management specifically, just because, like I said, we explored the sticker idea, and they already have a system like that in place, and according to Waste Management, it's also not working. So we could do the same thing that we did with a direct QR code to their reporting process. But then one of the things we did take on about a year ago, if you guys will recall, is the Office of the Mayor stepped in to kind of mediate the reports that we have received that Waste Management is not being responsive. So obviously, Waste Management, when we talk to them, they say, well, we don't have any reports, or no calls came in, whatever may be the case. So that's why now the city mediates that. And so I'll be sure to give you all my cards so that you're aware, but besides the residents here, it has to be a citywide thing. So I think that maybe a door hanger may be something that's a little bit more feasible.
So my concern is, I'm a homeowner, I can see that, but when you have renters in multiple unit buildings, they don't know. And
Yeah.
then when they're moving out, they don't know who to call for furniture that they put in the alley. If we had a number visible somewhere on the garbage can, even if it's on the lower bottom part, so that they have someone
I see
to
what you're
call
saying.
for, removal of a couch, or, whatever it may be. But just so that the number is more visible, because I think, we don't have to go searching for it. If it's right there, we're more likely to call than not.
Mhm. And one more thing
Tenants, that's what.
One more thing I wanted to ensure that you consider is, as you are defining a budget and what needs are, is to include a marketing and outreach budget, because at the moment, we print everything either in-house or we take the budgets from other departments. So for example, what paid for this was not Waste Management or the Berwyn Public Health District, it was the Blight Department. And the Blight Department is not the Rodent Abatement Department. So we're taking resources from other departments in order to, navigate this issue, but that's not a sustainable or long-term solution. So outreach, and one thing that I have learned is that print material is absolutely necessary in this community. There was a long time when we did a lot of multimedia and robocalls that is effective to an extent, but this is a print community. And so we have to and print is expensive. And also to consider color print, because we noticed that the color and non-color has an impact on whether residents even take the information at all. So just consider that as you guys are strategizing, that there has to be an allocation of marketing and print material budget to do the actual research.
So I would add to that, in 2023 budget, we should add employees to rat abatement. If it's a supervisor and maybe 2 full-time employees, that's going to add to the budget. That means benefits, that means union, pension, whatever. We need to just add them, because we can't continue this way. And if they're not going to report into Blight, if they report into a supervisor or whatever, we should just put a small budget together for that while we're waiting for the RFQ. And that's the only way we're going to get this thing done.
And that happens through the committee budgeting process?
We can do it through the budget committee and figure out if it's going to go through the building department,
Okay.
or where those staff members are going to fall under. Because we need just feet on the street that just take care of rat abatement and communication with residents.
Okay.
So I'll get some numbers for that, and then we can bring that back to the table here.
That's perfect.
Okay.
Another thing I wanted to lift up, and I think this was talked about in public comment and has been talked about in many meetings, is the community piece of this and the residents' involvement in this work as well. And so I just want to also suggest to the committee and see what you all think about this. I was doing some research around different communities and stumbled across a couple of municipalities, and Oak Park for sure has this, where you can get some support for your own alley cleanup from the city. It's small, it's not anything huge, it's bags and gloves and maybe just being able to schedule a special pickup. But it's something that several alderpersons have worked on throughout the last 2 years. Alley cleanups have been really, really effective in building community on blocks, connecting to folks who are typically maybe left out of the mainstream process if they're tenants or if they're new to the neighborhood. identifying where the issues are at, like boroughs, where they're at, and being able to report that to the city if you do uncover them while you're cleaning. And so I think that it would be great if it was something that, not to the level of you need a permit to block the alley off, but if they could get some support from the city, some bags, gloves, basic supplies, and then have a designated drop-off area for the debris or the garbage that they've cleaned up. This way, Public Works maybe can come pick it up. And it's basically replicating what we've done with our alley cleanups and working with Public Works organically, but if this could be something that's more institutionalized that the rest of the city could use, there's some amazing people here today if they wanted to do one, and work with their neighbors to do it, and do some education. It could be something that I think can bring the community into this work as well, while the city's doing their part, while the consultants doing their part, and whoever we're working with, the new employees are doing their part. So it's more of a holistic approach. So just asking for your all support on that to see if we can put something together, if it's just a page where people can go to and make that request, or if it's something that has to be done through a specific department. We can look into that more, but would just like to institutionalize that as an opportunity.
We currently, we do get supplies from Public Works when we do our cleanups.
Yeah.
Bags, gloves, we can borrow rakes, shovels, things like that currently.
Yeah.
I don't know to the extent of the entire city, but we can get that, so there is it out there. It's just putting a program together for that.
Yeah, and just looking at Oak Parks, it's not a robust request. It's literally like, can I get 10 bags? Can I get some, reusable gloves or something?
Sure.
And then the date of the event, so that Public Works or whatever department takes care of it there can swing by and pick it up. And I think just thinking about how many we've done recently and how many more folks are requesting to do them with us, it'd be nice to empower the residents to be able to do it with their neighbors and get connected and work on this as well, and get some support from the city in doing it. I think the biggest piece of it is like it getting picked up, right? If you do it on a Saturday or Sunday and then you have to wait till Friday for all that garbage to get picked up, it's kind of counterproductive. But it'd be nice to have somewhere where people can go and sign up for that and make that request, and have that be dropped off at a resident's house or something. All right.
What type of equipment does Oak Park provide residents?
So it's really basic. It's very similar to what they do in Chicago. Thank you for coming out. It is gloves, bags, waste bags, and yard waste bags. And I think there might be kind of a drop down for tools, like maybe a couple rakes or something like that. So it's very basic. It's like 3 or 4 things that you can request. And then it is, I think for theirs, they actually block the alley that day. Like the city will block the alley for them. And there's not really a pickups. That was something that we thought we might need based on the amount of work that we've been doing in alleys. But it's very simple. It's just kind of a supply request, really.
Well, there's a big difference when you drive through Oak Park and walk through their alleys than when you drive through
Yeah,
Irwin and walk through our alleys.
No, for sure, for sure. I mean, and we've done the alley cleanup, so we know how intensive they can be. We use power tools sometimes, so.
I don't know if their ordinances are stronger than ours,
Right,
but
right.
you don't see what you see over here.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
And that's why we really probably need to look at our ordinances as well to really see why it is, because you don't see that over there. You don't see weeds in the alley. You don't see garbage overflowing. It's amazing.
Well, Rob, on the waste management issue, I know that one of the residents that brought this up about the holes in the cans and whatnot. Now, years ago, when we did city contracted with Waste Management, they had a service that they had like a pickup truck, a extra large pickup truck, pulled a trailer with all kinds of extra cans, parts for cans, wheels, axles, lids, you name it, it was on the truck. And they just cruised the alley on a daily basis and repaired what was broken.
Yeah.
That would help deter rats and squirrels and whatnot chewing these cans up. But for years now, these cans haven't been addressed, haven't been repaired.
Right. And we talked to them about that. They shared that they don't do that anymore, but they will take a list. So they and so that's where
But
that's
that
where they're
falls
at.
on deaf ears, like these residents are
Right,
saying. You
right.
call in and they get ignored.
Exactly. So it's they kind of, I guess the alternative is for what Scott was talking about. What we do, what some other alders do is sharing. Walking the alleys, sharing a list of what cans need to be repaired, what need to be replaced. That's sort of their new way of doing it. They don't do the drive through the community anymore. And so that's what they shared with us when we asked them, like, is that still a service? You guys still do that? And they're like, that's not part of the contract and what we do nowadays.
We couldn't even request,
I mean,
like once a year to do it, to keep the cans somewhat in repair?
would that be something we would have to ask them for?
I could
Yeah.
reach out to Vaughn and just see, because I think what he told me last time is that they do spot checks, or they do sometimes the garbage, people do call, do write down the address and replace them. I know when I did it twice, they did replace the 200, 300 cans.
Oh yeah, they do it. Yeah.
So what they do is the truck comes in and it has all those on there, and then they go down and they don't actually repair them on site, so they put a new one in, take the other one out, and go from there. But it does happen, but it's not probably as consistent and as it was many years ago.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's happening when we send them a list, right? So if we send them a list of 30, 40 cans, then they'll take that route, they'll go through it, and if they do see things, they potentially mark it down too if they see things that we miss, but it's not as part of the routine as it was in the past.
And it's correct that, renters and people don't know who to call. They really
Right.
don't.
Yeah,
It could be my neighbors, and I say, they say, "Oh, I don't know who to call."
Exactly.
Right.
Sure.
Right. There might have to be a whole new contract between us and them in the future.
So I'll talk to Vaughn and just see what their practice is now and bring that back to
Okay.
the table.
Okay.
I like your idea about having a kit available for residents and the potential for blocking off the alley in order to do a cleanup. And it strikes me that it would be perhaps as easy as the same kind of request for block party, that you have an application and you just check off, items that you might need and then have a list. That may be a good referral to the Public Works, Trees, Traffic Committee to try to work with Mr. Schiller to see whether or not that would, what would be the impact of having them drive around and pick up the garbage, put at the end of the alley, like on a Monday or whatever.
Right.
Because we don't, it's a great idea, but we don't know whether they already have, I know that they have, a small truck that drives around and services the depot district, trash cans and things, and so maybe that's,
Yeah,
they could do that on that route,
Sure.
On
Yeah.
that day, when they do the commercial districts. But, let's refer that to parking or Public
Yeah,
Works Committee
yeah.
and have them chat with
Okay.
Mr. Schiller about it.
Okay.
And then I'd be happy, because the clerk's office actually distributes the block party requests. And so I'll work with Deputy Clerk Anderson to try to mock up a request form.
Okay.
And then, we just got to get some prices, right, as to, where are you going to keep the gloves? Who's going to put the kits together, that kind of stuff.
Right. Okay.
And
Yeah, and I'll send you what the request form looks like
That'd
from
be-
the other cities
that'd
too,
be
just so you can
nice.
get an idea of like what they're doing. But thank you. I appreciate that. That would be
And
nice.
then I'll have that ready for you, and then you can make that referral to the Public Works Committee at our next council meeting,
Okay.
okay?
Perfect. Sounds good.
So I think that is a great idea. I'm just afraid that in our multi-unit buildings, the tenants are not going to do that. They're not going to clean the yard. It's left always on the owner, and sometimes, we have good owners and we have bad owners. So although I think it's a great idea, I don't know that everybody's going to take you up on that.
Well, the only other thing that you can do, right, is to increase the amount of fees against the owners. And that would be a referral to the finance department to increase that, because, you know, if it hurts in the pocketbook, they might be more serious, just like Mr. Sullivan is when he is working with his tenants. And
Right.
that'd help pay for the gloves that you're gonna be giving
Right.
out to everybody else.
And then I think that, you know, sometimes it's not so much that they don't have a bag or a rake. I think maybe it's a senior citizen that's elderly that doesn't have the energy to go out there and do that. Or, you know, working families where, you know, the husband might work 2 or 3 jobs and, you know, the wife's inside with the children and they don't really have the time to tend to their yard and clean their yard.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a multitude of things. I think it's a great idea. Maybe it will motivate some folks to say, well, I don't have to go buy a bag. I could just go pick one up, you know? So I think that anything helps, but I'm also, you know, just playing the devil's advocate.
Well, and I appreciate that. I think my suggestion is more around it being an opt-in kind of thing, right? So if there's a couple residents on a block that want to get together, that want to do the thing, there's definitely always going to be folks maybe that are too busy or that are not going to be participating. But I think from my own, anecdotally, from my own experience of doing several of these, I've had renters come out, I've had homeowners come out, like people connect, like, and they appreciate that people are helping out and trying to do something in the alley. It just depends on if you catch them that day. So I think another cool thing that maybe could be a part of the packet is like some of the information, Claudia, that you have, right, that your department has been working on around like keeping spaces clean and right, and doing what you need to do to keep healthy and clean spaces in the community. We would kind of create something like that when we would do them, and we would put them up on the poles and pass them out to people when we would go door to door to do outreach to get them to come out. So that could be another piece maybe too, is like, you know, I can't make it, but at least I see it, and then I come back to my alley and hey, people are out here cleaning. It might kind of push me to do something in my backyard or in my alley too, my alley space.
Claudia, can I ask you, when you did this research, particularly with Oak Park, were you able to gather information about what their rat abatement staff looked like, and how many, you know, what staff numbers they had, so that we would be able to even toy with the idea of having the same kind of department?
Yeah, absolutely. So I spoke with the health department because it's under the health department's purview, and their staffing is they contract somebody. So it's a company that's contracted. It's not in-house. And the duty of the health department and the staff, and she referred to 2 and herself, is to oversee the pest control's work. So that's something huge. And you know, as Scott said, she was super friendly and more than willing to share with us, and she did her process. But the big takeaway was that she stated in the beginning, we had a contractor come in, assess, provide for us a plan. Then I was contracted full-time, and I work with the rodent abatement contractor, and I oversee everything. So she literally told me that this whole first year, wherever the rodent company, they would give reports, obviously, and this is what we did, or this is what, she'd go that day, and her full 8 hours was driving around the neighborhood, you know, following up on any complaints that the rodent abatement was not fulfilling. So basically, their staff wasn't huge because they stated that the contractor is overseen. So I thought that was a great way to also execute, because you can't just be like, oh, great, they're doing their job, and maybe in next year or in a couple quarters, or when the issue is out of control, we'll come back and assess. There is somebody that is
That built-in accountability. Yeah.
That's exactly what the word that she's. Every single day I check, and it's not that I don't trust, you know, my abatement contract. Is that that's my job to oversee that. So I thought that was a good thing, and I thought that maybe, you know, in lieu of creating an entire different department and all that would come with it, contracting somebody and then having one person designated for oversight specifically, because again, blight encompasses many other things. It's not a rodent abatement department or company, that would be the key thing.
And from listening to you all talk about the ways in which you navigate that now, it's very clear that someone needs to be doing that separate from all of that other stuff.
That's
right?
correct,
Right.
because right now we actually have Mary, our coordinator for blight, take the direct calls. Mary also takes the direct calls for all of blight. And blight is not just, actually rodent is a symptom of blight, but it's not blight. You know, it's deteriorating buildings and, you know, things of that nature. So we're having somebody do a work that's a separate
Right.
job position. And they've been doing a great job. Mary has been, very accommodating, and we listen to all the feedback from residents and the concerns, and we try to work with what we have. But as you know, $30,000 and having, you know, a whole other department, you know, address this is not sustainable, and that's why we see the issues that we see. But that's what I found from that.
We need
Okay,
to
thank
we
you.
need to separate it.
Yeah, for sure.
We can't do it this way.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that the Berwyn Public Health District decades ago, ceded all their authority to the city of Berwyn. We're coterminous, so our boundaries are the same as the city of Berwyn. And decades ago, the Public Health District gave up any kind of ticket writing authority. We have nobody that can do that or can enforce that. And we have had discussions over at the Health District about, and in fact, the board voted to send it to our attorney to work with the city of Berwyn to see whether or not we could begin writing health district tickets. But that's unfortunately gone nowhere for months. That's also been tabled. So there's no status on that. But the difficulty is you're going to have two organizations trying to attack the same problem, and you know, the health district is only going to recreate another kind of blight department in order to do that, and then there's going to be no accountability, right? More a continued finger pointing as to whose responsibility it is. And so I think the model that we have where the health district helps financially support a program would probably be the best, because the health district really only has 5 employees right now. And so for us to recreate a department like the one that is well handled by Mary Godini, you know, we have to take on, you know, inspectors and management in order to do that, and there's no budgetary way that we're going to be able to finance that. We are limited as to the amount of how high we can increase our taxes every year. Unlike the city of Berwyn, who's home rule and you can increase taxes, your tax rate, whatever, we're actually limited to 3%. And if we go beyond, you know, if we go up to the 5% level, we have to have a referendum. And so in order to take on that responsibility, it would be, you know, I don't imagine us being able to pack any more employees into that little building on 26th and East Avenue.
Okay.
So who takes care of your commercial properties?
I'm
Is
sorry?
that our blight folks, the commercial properties,
Well,
the
we,
restaurants?
the blight department has one person now that is going and doing the exterior, but like I said, we have one staff person who goes and inspects restaurants and new businesses. There's a certain, you know, type of inspection that has to be done when any new business opens. And so when Tony Perry gets the license application, they send it over to the one staffer who will go and do the cursory type of inspection that's required in order to open up the business. And then we have that one staffer will also, on a quarterly basis, touch every restaurant in Berwyn, every daycare center, every school, in order to make sure that their food service is up to compliance, as well as respond to any kind of complaint that Cook County Department of Public Health may get about a restaurant. If someone has a you know, a food-related illness, you know, food poisoning or something, we get called by the Cook County.
You know, one other thing too, and Scott, you brought it up, that when you go into the Oak Park alleys, they don't look anything like ours. And I talked to a few residents in Oak Park not too long ago, and it was funny because they use Waste Management also, and now they don't. They don't have the contract. I believe they switched to Lake Shore because Waste Management wasn't performing.
Sure.
So, you know, up to their standards, and Oak Park didn't renew their contract, and they went with Lake Shore.
And that could be, I mean, I didn't really notice garbage cans as much as I didn't notice weeds and just overflowing garbage and things
Right.
like that. And, you know, that's what I noticed there versus over here.
But one thing on those cans too, the cans are maintained a lot better
Sure.
than Waste Management seems to be doing ours.
Sure.
All right, so thank you, Don. I appreciate that, and everybody, Marge as well. Really great questions and contributions today. I just want to do a recap so we can respect folks' time. So we're pushing an hour and a half. I want to first get a signal from you all that you would be in support of me putting together a communication to direct the building department to put out an RFQ to search for a consultant to start building a plan. So can I get your support on that? Everybody's good? Okay. I'm also going to put together, I'm going to refer, because I am also on the Public Works Committee, the idea of putting together some type of package for alley cleanups, and Marge, you shared that you would support with that, and so would Sandy, to put together some type of proposal or a registration example, and then maybe get some more information from Director Schiller on, you know, how that could impact the budget or what we would need to do to make that work. Do folks feel good about that, or folks on board with that? Okay.
Yeah, and if we can add that to maybe the events application that Marge,
Yeah.
you were talking about.
Yeah,
that?
for like,
Just have
permits.
that where it's a checkbox and so on.
Beautiful. And then we'll do some more work with Claudia talking. I know Mary Beth, you had wanted to get more information to residents directly to their waste baskets, their bins, to allow them to better know where they need to reach out to, who they need to reach out to if they need support, so we can start working on something around that too. We can get your support, Claudia, on that, to explore different ideas. I think what you all are doing with the door hanger is one avenue, and that's good. But it seems like maybe some folks might not respond to that if they are not homeowners, and how can we get that directly to them in some other ways, or can we get creative around getting Waste Management's information to tenants and residents and making them feel more comfortable with reaching out and connecting to Waste Management for support. So those are the three big takeaways for today. My goal would be next to set up another meeting in 2 weeks, I think. 2 or 3 weeks, so that we could, you know, by then, hopefully this got on council, we voted for it, and we can start talking about next steps. And then I'll make sure that it's after the next council, so that it, like, yeah, so that we can make sure that things are moving forward. And I'll reach out to you all about dates at that point, unless you guys want to do that right now. We could do that now too, if you want to look at dates really quick.
You want to stick to...
I can make myself available.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead and look at your calendar.
Are Wednesdays good? Like a Wednesday after council or something like that, or the Wednesday the week after?
Yeah.
Wednesdays are probably the best.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I don't have the dates in front of me. I'm doing a 10-month parent series at the school, and I know there's one Wednesday in September, but I'm thinking it's towards the end of the month that
Okay.
we're doing it.
Okay.
So, like, I think the first 2 weeks might be good.
You too?
Yeah.
Alderman Carmichael?
14th or 21st.
Okay.
The 7th?
Our next city council meeting is
7th wouldn't
September
be it.
13th.
Yeah, that would be before.
So maybe the 14th? You guys okay with the 14th
Yeah,
for
let's
now,
shoot for
tentatively?
14th.
Okay.
When I get to work, I'll check my calendar tomorrow and just
Okay.
to make sure.
Same time, 6 o'clock?
Yeah. And I'll send out an email to everybody about that. And we will put it out to the public too, once again, so that folks can come out. We'll put it on different platforms, social media, the ENS system, and the community calendar. So thank you all for your contributions today, staying with us. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Starving. My stomach's like.